Is it your dream to become a professional wrestling superstar, manager, or referee? Well, you can make that dream a reality by training with Midwest All-Pro Wrestling. Learn from former WWE superstar and NXT coach Eugene Nick Dinsmore. Classes are training right now, so go to MidwestAllPro.com and click on training to enroll today.
Hello, BTC. This is your boy, DJ Barbecue, on the #1 show, BTC UnCut Live, powered by KBack.Rocks. Your rock radio the way you wanted rock radio. Also sponsored by Midwest All-Pro Wrestling. Today, we have the #1 world-famous impersonator of Macho Man Randy Savage. Today on the show. What up, Mach? How are you doing today? Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, freak out, man. My pleasure for being on the show,
So, let's hear a little bit about yourself and tell the fans, and the platform's yours.
Well, like you said, I am the world's #1 Macho Man impersonator. What I do is total tribute to the man. And in no way am I disrespecting or making a mockery of Macho Man Randy Savage. I grew up being a huge fan, and what I do now is I just entertain people doing the thing, and I just happen to be very blessed that I am extremely good at doing this impersonation, and it has a lot to do with me being, you know, a 10, 11-year-old kid watching way too much Randy Savage footage.
Right. I got to say, this is an honor to have you on the show. I appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule. Tell us a little bit more about how you got started. What's the backstory on this?
Well, obviously, you know, I am not the man. I am just the, like I said, the world's greatest #1. Cream of the crop impersonator of all time, but I have a history of being a professional wrestler by a name that will not be revealed from parts unknown. All right, we'll just leave it at that. And I spent 13 years in the wrestling business, and a couple of years of that was down at OVW. For those that don't know, that's Ohio Valley Wrestling in Louisville, Kentucky. And one of the greatest places if you are a wrestling student, and or if you're looking to get into becoming a wrestler, you want to train down at OVW with Al Snow and Rip Rogers. You will never, ever get training like that anywhere else. Just to plug those guys.
Well, speaking of OVW, what are some of the top athletes that you were in when you were down there in OVW?
Man, I went down there in 2005, and right at that time, I pretty much just missed the class before me that got called up. It was John Cena, you know, a guy by the name of John Cena that you may have heard of.
A little bit.
Yeah, he's done a couple things in the business.
Maybe one or two.
Yeah, him and a guy by the name of Randy Orton, and a guy by the name of Brock Lesnar, man, Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas. Oh man, there was a lot of names that were right before they went up, right before I got down there, and then when I was down there, there were the guys like Nick Dinsmore. He pretty much went up like right as I got there, so I got to get a little training from him, and you know, got to get to know him, and he's a totally cool guy. But let me see, guys like Rob Conway, he was also down there like for a minute. and went up on the road like right before, like right as I was getting there. The majority of the time that I was there with like CM Punk, Brent Albright, Deuce and Domino, and a lot of these names that you may not even have heard of because they got brought up, and at that time it was like nobody was being used the right way or whatever. Nobody was, I don't know, but it's like they were almost like if you blinked, you missed them.
Okay.
And but there was a lot of good talent that went up, and then nobody even remembers them.
What are some of the matches that you had with some of the talent that some of the viewers and listeners may not know?
Well, believe it or not, I had a match with CM Punk, and he was OVW heavyweight champion at the time. So, if you really want to break it down, Mach, at that time not being Mach, had a title match with CM Punk. How do you like that?
That's awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah. Cody Rhodes was there. And it's just crazy to believe now that, Cody was down there, and he was actually tag team champions with, what's his name? Sean Spears.
Okay.
So they were tag team, they were a great tag team down there, and now they're feuding, and it's just, it's crazy to think that, Cody was down there, and now he's like running, Vince's competition.
Right. Right.
Which I love. That's just amazing to me. And Cody was a good guy. And who else was down there? So I had matches, like tag matches, and I was in the ring with him and Sean Spears and Deuce and Domino. There was a lot of tag matches, and trying to think of who else was down there. So many names, but so many people wouldn't even know who they were, unfortunately.
Now
Paul Burchill.
Oh, Paul's down there. Okay. I'm a huge fan of OVW, so to hear this is really cool. It's one of those schools, those promotions that changed the industry, in my opinion. From your start in OVW to when you were getting towards the finish of OVW, how much did it change with that talent that now you see what they're doing today from what you saw back then?
Well, at that time, OVW, of course, was WWE's developmental. Now,
right.
It wasn't their only developmental because they had Deep South down in Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Georgia. So what they would do is they would trade talent back and forth. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Kofi Kingston was another one. Now, names are going to start popping into my head. So, so it was like some guys were down at OVW, and then they would go down to Deep South, and then Deep South would send guys to OVW, so that it was good because they were always getting, new. These guys were, once they worked everybody down there already in Georgia, they got a chance to come up and work new guys.
Right.
Which kept them. You can't work the same guys over and over and over again because you don't get better that way.
Right.
So, I think that the developmental system was great compared to comparatively speaking to what they're doing now, where it's like it's a WWE factory where everybody's being trained the same way. They're all working each other, numerous times. It's NXT is, pretty much the developmental, and they're it's like a cookie cutter type of thing where everybody is, they're all moving the same way and all. So that's the difference that I find that, it was better. It was better back when there was a developmental, and the proof is in the pudding because, you got guys like the guys that I mentioned that are, you mentioned any of those names, John Cena and, Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar, man. I mean, the three of those names are still, three of the biggest names,
Right.
And we're talking, I was down there, that was like from 2005 to 2007, you know what I mean? So, and, not to knock anyone, but, they're just not developing talent. You know what I mean, with this talent factory that they're pushing out guys out of this cookie cutter mold. I mean, you know, there aren't stars being put on TV that are at that caliber.
Right.
You know, like the guys I mentioned.
And I was just going to ask you, from with your experience and knowledge, is it a bad thing, or not really to say a bad thing? Is it kind of a restriction when you're just having one developmental compared to like where you said you had the Deep South and then you had OVW? That's kind of like a territory thing where they go back and forth. Do you think that that's something that would be a little bit better if they had a second one so they could switch back and forth?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, at one time WWE had several developmentals at the same time. You know, they had OVW, they had Deep South. I think there was another one in Memphis that they were using for a little while. I think it may have been the Jerry Lawler's, was it USWA or something?
Okay.
So you know, it was like WWE was like there were territories, but WWE kind of owned them all. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he just had people at different places, and then would trade talent. It was exactly like, you know, he bought out all the territories, and then he kind of made his own territories, and that's what he's doing now. You know, he's got NXT, but he's got you know, there's like NXT in England.
Right.
He's got like a whole Great Britain territory, and then he's got the territory in Orlando, and then he's got the territory. I mean, they're expanding, like NXT is expanding, and they're in different countries, and so in that sense, it's you know, he's WWE has, of course, taken over the whole wrestling world, or at least they did for a while, and I think things are really starting to change now.
Right. And you were talking about with Cody and Sean Spears being down there in OVW and as a tag team, with what you've been seeing lately and developing. I want to hear your opinion on this, because you have all the experience. What is your feeling about the structure, the infrastructure, I should say, of professional wrestling now? Is it something that reminds you back in when WCW and WWE as WWF was going back and forth, or do you see this as a new thriving, just completely exciting, different feel from what it was back then?
Well, it's kind of like both. You know what I mean? For a wrestling fan now, this is like the most exciting time for wrestling fans. I mean, they may not even remember because they're too young, but you know, the whole Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars and all that stuff, man. It's like history is starting to repeat itself, man. And the thing is that AEW is like, it's funny because they're going to be on TNT, and TNT is still owned by Turner, so it's kind of funny how you got Vince in competition with Turner once again. So
right.
You want to talk about history repeating itself. I just, you know, I think it's awesome that there's going to be, you know, legit competition. I mean, there already is, and they haven't even gotten on TV yet, that they're going to be competing with NXT.
Right.
I believe it's going to be the Wednesday Night Wars, man. It's going to be, man, it's incredible. You know, I mean, it's making me a fan again, because for the longest time, I stopped watching wrestling. But the very first time that I saw AEW was when I was in the front in the front row at the Double or Nothing.
Right.
Some of you may remember there being a awesome lookalike Macho Man Randy Savage in the front row, and yeah, that was me.
The Macho Man lookalike.
Yeah, the number one. There are some. I checked it out, man. I tried to find some competition on YouTube, and you Google Randy Savage impersonators, and you know, there's a couple out there that are decent. I was like, okay, but there's a lot more bad ones. But I'll tell you right now, if you're looking for the number one, cream of the crop, the number one, Macho Man Randy Savage impersonator, you're hearing him right now, yeah. So, but to tell the story real quick about how I ended up in the front row there, it's because I'm so awesome that I went to StarCast the day before and entered the cosplay costume contest, which I just found out about it like the night before, and I said, shit, I gotta go to this thing. And I had to get up, it was like 8 in the morning, so I found out about it the night before, and I actually got there a little bit late, and so I didn't get a spot reserved for myself, but when I walked in, they saw me, and they put me into the contest right away, and yeah, of course, there was never a doubt that I was going to win, and I did, and I won 2 free front row tickets.
Right.
And that's how this whole thing really got started.
Well, you said the contest that you had to go through for there at StarCast. Who did you have to go against? Was there really any competition? Because I would say, Mach, you pretty much probably blew him out of the water, from my opinion.
Yeah, I did. I mean, there was a guy with a robe and a goofy blonde wig, and he was doing the Ric Flair thing, and he didn't look like him, he didn't sound like him, he was just pretty much a guy dressed up in a Ric Flair costume. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was a girl who was like painted up doing the Finn Balor thing. Okay, I get it, I know who you're supposed to be, but
right,
it's not. Here's the thing, man. That was like it was a costume contest, so it was like people's costumes were good, but my costume was good, and by the way, I made it myself because I'm just that awesome, and so I didn't only have the costume, you know what I mean? I had the whole impersonation, the voice, the mannerisms, the the whole 9 yards. And I'll tell you what's funny is that the couple of the judges there, one of them was Diamond Dallas Page, who of course his history with Mach, right?
Yep,
so,
exactly.
So he was digging it, you know what I mean? He was digging it right away. And Mark Henry was up there, and they were just like popping huge for it,
right?
So I knew, when I saw the judges and I saw the other contestants, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know what the prize was, man, because I found out about the contest, like I said, the night before. And I just said, okay, man, I'm going to go to this thing because I enjoy doing it. I love doing it, I love doing this whole thing. It's entertaining people. And I get to, to be somebody that I admired, as a kid, and it's so awesome. But like I said, I didn't know what the prize was. When I won, they told me it was 2 tickets to the show, which I wasn't intending on going because I didn't have the money to buy the tickets or whatever. I just wanted to go to the StarCast and be around wrestling. I just love being around it. You know what I mean?
What was the reaction from the fans once you showed up in the arena? Because I can say personally, I watched that show, and I noticed you and my son. We were down in our living room, our movie theater room, and there's no way that anybody did not do double takes or triple takes at you, because it was absolutely amazing. You couldn't tell me, and I would still not believe you if it wasn't really him. That's the reason why you are the world famous number one impersonator of Macho Man Randy Savage. So Mach, tell us a little bit about the reaction that you were getting from the fans when you showed up.
Man, I mean, it started even before I walked into the arena, because I'm walking through the EMGM hotel, and people are, stopping me and asking to take pictures, and just totally, going nuts over it. And I love that. It's like, oh man, this is so awesome. And then, so I get into the arena, and I'm being brought to my seat by one of the ushers, or whatever you call them. And man, I mean, we walked right past, kind of in between the section of the raised up, bleacher seats,
right,
or whatever you call them.
Yep.
So the floor in between the the ground seats and the bleacher seats, and man, I just wasn't expecting it at all that the people that were sitting in the bleacher seats, man, you know, they got, you know, perfect view. And I walk in and the crowd was going nuts, man, and they're going, oh yeah, and they're doing the thing, and you know, oh man, it was crazy. And then you know, once I got my seat, the people around me were just totally, you know, marking out for it, and it was just so much fun. And you know, at one point was Justin Roberts, the ring announcer.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I was sitting right behind the like the bell keeper's table right there. So so Justin Roberts was like marking out for it, you know what I mean? He like would look over and he'd be like, dude, that's awesome. And then somebody, I forget who it was, man, but one of the guys, one of the wrestlers, I think it might have been Omega, that he looked at me and he said something, you know what I mean?
Right.
He said something like, you know, oh, Macho Man, or, you know, something like he saw it and liked it, you know? And so that was, I mean, the reaction was awesome.
That has to be really cool, a really good feeling.
Oh man,
just the
know,
way that you did
like,
justice to it, that was awesome.
Yeah, man, it feels like, you know, like you're actually that person. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, this must have been what he felt. This must have been like this is what it feels like to be famous. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and of course, you know, I always wanted to be famous, and you know, I never. Let me put it this way, you know, when I was wrestling, you know, under my my real self, or at least that character that I was, you know, it wasn't much. It wasn't. I didn't look anything like much at that time, and I never got the reaction that I get when I'm doing my thing. You know what I mean? So to me, this is like I have fans, and I get the reaction that I've always wanted. And to be honest with you, man, I'm more I enjoy this more, believe it or not, man. I enjoy doing this more. It's more fun for me, and I get a reaction that I never got before, and I think that people are it puts smiles on people's faces. And it makes them, you know, I'm entertaining them in a way that I didn't entertain before. And I really, really enjoy that, man. I love making people happy, you know, just doing the thing.
Right. So we said about what you were doing with the show. What are some of the things that you're doing now outside of just going to, like, pro wrestling shows? Why don't you tell the viewers and the listeners of what some of the things that you're doing now?
Well, being that I live in Las Vegas, man, it's like, you know, thank God for that, because this is like the entertainment capital of the world. And so I'm always finding gigs, you know, for just regular gigs if they're looking for models or actors. And, you know, and I have a background in acting also, you know what I mean? Besides doing my wrestling, when I was done wrestling, which I, you know, like a lot of other wrestlers, they went into doing acting, and
right.
And because I was in good shape, I was able to do some fitness modeling, and like a lot of others, I did some stand-up comedy. So now that I'm focusing on doing this thing, that's pretty much like all I really want to do. I really don't have an interest in doing any of the regular acting stuff and the you know, anything under myself. So if I submit myself for any gigs that are, you know, acting gigs, or, you know, sometimes they're just needing like brand ambassadors, or you know, models or whatever they're looking for expos or whatever, I always throw out the idea, hey, you know, I don't know if this interests you, but I am the world's #1 Macho Man Randy Savage impersonator. How would you feel about having, you know, this character for your thing? And it attracts a lot of attention, and people really enjoy it. And once I say that, they, you know, they're down with it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I end up getting gigs just by, you know, mentioning to them what I'm doing. You know, it's kind of like they book me, and then I book Motch.
Hey, Motch, thanks for calling in. I enjoyed the time with you. Tell the listeners and the watchers where they could find you at if they ever wanted to get a hold of you.
Yeah, well, if you go on to Instagram and look up MOTCH111, that's Motch 111. That is my Instagram, and my Twitter is the same except with an additional 1 at the end. You can email me for bookings at themotch111@gmail.com. And if there's anybody out there looking for a sponsor to sponsor their company, I'm one hell of a sponsor. Yeah, I'm good with all that stuff. You need me to marry you, you need me to show up at your wedding party, divorce party, whatever it is, man. Motch is full on entertainment, huh?
Awesome. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say once again, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. You know what? Go ahead and take us out to end the show there, if you don't mind.
Yeah, this is Motch saying have a good night and talk to you soon. Oh, yeah. Dig it.
Peace, everybody.
Because you want, shining like it's neon, rock like kings of Leon, shooting stars across the galaxy.